Hi folks, and welcome back to the channel. Now, those of you that have seen some of my recent videos may remember that I discussed an idea with you guys regarding the setup of an MMORPG theme for Project Zomboid, and how it might be possible using the modding community. Well, in short, I've decided to go ahead with the idea. So in this video, I'll give you a very brief recap of the MMORPG theme, and show you guys the progress that has been made so far. Before that though, a message from this video's sponsor. Step into a fantasy-filled, persistent world with today's sponsor, Clash of Clans. Become the chief of a brand new village, complete challenges, and rebuild the settlement with the help of your villagers. Start by building some resource generators and use both gold and elixir to your advantage. Build defenses to protect your home, or recruit new troops and take the fight to the goblins in PvE single player to win gold and other items to help you expand your village. When you're ready, you'll be able to take on other players and start a raid to plunder all the rewards you can get your hands on and begin your ascent up the rankings. Download Clash of Clans for free using the on-screen QR code or the link in the description and start your rise to glory today. So, for a quick recap, these are the things we were looking to achieve as part of an MMORPG setup for Project Zomboid. Some of these provide more challenge than others, and I'm not going to dive into too much detail other than showing you this list, but if you want a full rundown, I'll leave a link to my previous video about all of this in the description. I was actually overwhelmed by the positive responses that we got on that last video, so I want to say a huge thank you to you guys for that. And equally, I want to thank those that left negative comments on the video doubting that this was possible. Not that I'm a petty person or anything, and I may or may not be telling porkies there, but the thought of proving those people wrong pushed me to get the ball rolling. The first thing we chose to tackle was the quest system. Now, without this, we'd be missing a key component of MMORPGs, and ultimately wouldn't be able to achieve the feel that we wanted for this whole thing. For this, we needed an experienced modder with some high quality work behind them, and we've got just that. Soulfilcher, who some of you may know for his mod like Soulfilcher's Awesome Time or Farming Time, is working on a quest system completely from scratch that fits directly into the current UI of Project Zomboid. It turns out that Soul had actually been working on this already and was able to set up a test run for me to see the capabilities of the system. Needless to say, I was pleasantly surprised by what the system could do. I was expecting basic quests like kill 10 zombies or bring me X amount of items, but it was actually much more complex than that. In the test run, there were quests assigned to a given occupation. There were timed actions like making a phone call that would actually draw over nearby zombies. I had to collect items from bodies, take photos and develop them, stash items in a hiding place, and much more. The quests were conveniently stored in its own tab under the character information panel, and objectives updated with each completed step, showing which objectives I'd completed already as well. All in all, this test was a huge success and showed that there was going to be some real potential in the sorts of quest objectives that we could give to players. Meaningful stories that could be built, and each could be displayed in an easy to find area of the existing interface. Now, there are some tweaks that we're going to make. One of the biggest I'd like to add being the opportunity to listen to dialogue or additional information from the quest giver. The hope is that this can provide optional depth for those that want to read into the story. Without forcing players to click through several boxes of dialogue, it can just be displayed in the quest information if you'd like to give it a read, similar to games like World of Warcraft if you're familiar with how they handle quests. To make sure the quests are varied and the stories themselves have some real substance to them, I've asked for the help of a friend of mine who will remain nameless but is a writer by trade in the video games industry. I'll be writing these quests alongside them, and we've already come up with some killer quest lines to follow. Each of the classes we're planning to add, which we'll get into shortly, will have a main quest line. From there will be quest lines available at settlements to complete for XP and other rewards. Side quests, essentially. The quests themselves will be, with some exceptions, through items provided by quest givers. These quest givers will be housed at settlements around the map. The settlements themselves are being designed and constructed by our very own Simon MD, who has been responsible for many of the map mods we've added in previous setups to provide a hub for players to interact with traders, quest givers, or just other players. The images you're seeing on screen are some of his past works, and this one in particular is of the very first settlement that will be part of the MMORPG theme. I look forward to sharing some more sneak previews of these settlements as they develop a little bit more. Now, I've mentioned traders a couple of times already, and thankfully this part of our setup has already been completed. For those of you that remember our Stalker themed mod collection, we commissioned Chuck to build a shops and traders mod. This comes with fully functional currency, trading of currency between players and vendors that will stock set amounts of items, refresh at timed intervals set to your preference, and even sell items that players sell to them. That's if you want to enable this feature for specific vendors, of course. Now, I don't want to take away the benefits of looting, but we do want to offer players an alternative way to acquire certain items, sell things that they don't need, or purchase things required as part of our new crafting overhaul. And that brings me nicely onto our reworked crafting. One of the biggest parts of MMORPGs, in my mind, are the crafting elements. Almost every MMO handles this differently, but to me, the most important aspects are the interactions with other players, with different crafting skills to your own, and providing an actual reward to the crafting itself. I see so many games where crafted weapons and armor are available, but almost always stuff you acquire through quests are better than the crafted alternatives. So players perceive the crafting as nothing more than a grind that they have to push through to get to the good stuff at the end. We're hoping to ensure that this isn't the case with our theme. We've started with crafted weaponry. Yaki, the creator of Yaki's makeshift clothing and other popular cosmetic mods, has started modeling some weapons for each of the weapon skills in Project Zomboid, such as spears or long blunt, each with 4 varieties ranging from a low tier makeshift weapon up to a masterwork weapon crafted by the finest weaponsmith. Players will need to acquire higher level crafting skills and, most importantly, progress their crafting skill questline to unlock tools or other items to allow them to craft the next tier of weaponry. I'm planning to expand on the weapons available at a later stage, but for now, one for each weapon skill is a good way to start. We've also found that it's possible to change the existing crafting skills in the game, move recipes around to other areas, and add our own crafting skills to the game itself. Now, with that in mind, we're going to rework the crafting skills to be more reminiscent of an MMO experience. The players will be able to choose 2 primary skills on character creation, whilst having access to all of the secondary skills in our setup. The images you're seeing on screen are from a mod developed by Champy, which allows players to select their 2 chosen primary skills. This is going to make it much easier for the quest system to identify which skills players have when setting up which quests are available to them, and we're going to be putting in different quests for different chosen skills. We're also replacing the existing occupations entirely with more MMO-themed class choices, which will allow us to allocate the proper points required to select 2 primary skills as well. We're not ready to show these off just yet, but they are under construction, so more on that in a coming progress update. Skills are displayed in the same place they are in vanilla Project Zomboid, except now they are broken down into primary and secondary skill groups, and only the 2 primary skills that you pick will be displayed here. Keep in mind that the skills you see here might be adjusted later down the line, but for now, these are the ones that we've landed on as we move forward. Again, the idea behind this system is to provide a varied experience each time players create a new character, and facilitate trade between players as they look to acquire items they can't make for themselves. On a bit of a side note here, this is a similar direction the devs are hoping to go with their big crafting rework, so it'll be interesting to see how this can work ahead of those big changes. Now, I didn't want to restrict some of the activities that make Project Zomboid what it is, so when it came to secondary skills, I wanted to make sure things like building a safe house, cooking meals, or using any of the more survival-oriented skills were available to everyone. You can learn as many of these skills as you like, just like in vanilla, but when it comes to things with a crafting output, like making armor, weapons, or other useful items to the character, you'll have to choose which is most important to you. Alongside weapons, we're also going to provide some crafted clothing and armor sets. Yaki has already been working with us for our Dark Ages theme, which is currently running on our whitelisted Patreon server, and for that, we had a bunch of crafted clothing and armor added. Zombies will spawn with tattered rags that provide no physical protection, and clothing stores are empty, which means you need to craft your own clothes or get them from others who can craft them. Flax can be found in seed form and grown in a crop plot, which is then spun into linen at a loom and made into fabric with weaving tools at a tailoring bench. There's also options to dye the fabric using items found through foraging or looting. This proved to us that crafting benches were definitely possible to use during crafting processes with just the use of mods. Whilst we're focusing on weapons at the moment, the plan will be to add more armor and crafted clothing for the MMORPG theme. Since we've already got the base systems and a few different sets already available with their own benefits, we figured it best to focus on weapons for now to expand what's possible with crafting. Now, this next part is one that I'm quite excited about. If you've been keeping your eye on the Steam Workshop lately, you might have seen a mod from Champy, who I mentioned earlier, called Weapons Modifiers. Each weapon you find in the world has a chance to spawn with a certain rarity. Now, rarity will then affect the stat modifiers of the weapon, and naturally, this gives higher rarity weapons better stats possibilities. When I saw this mod, I absolutely had to include it in our MMO theme. It just made sense. Champy is now working with us on the theme, meaning we can create a slightly different version if we need to, and we have the ability to adjust rarity spawns, making weapons found in the world have a lower chance at being higher rarities, whereas crafted weapons might have higher chances of being higher rarities. It also encourages players to craft more and make weapons until they find something that suits their character build, essentially crafting with a random element. Something I do want to emphasize here as well is that I'll be looking into the dismantling of weapons if they don't suit what a player needs, so they can break them down into a portion of the usable materials that were used to craft in the first place. Hopefully more on that in the future. So, as you guys can see at this point in the video, we've started to work on a lot of different elements of this overhaul or setup, or whatever you want to call it. But what do we have left that we want to implement, which hasn't been started yet? As much as I love talking about what we've been able to accomplish so far, I think it's equally important for me to be transparent with you folks about what the difficulties might be behind certain systems, or what we haven't been able to find modders for yet. The largest of these items of work that we haven't been able to find a modder for just yet is a leveling system with gainable XP and a talent point system. This will be a pretty big undertaking for any modder, so it's natural really that this has been something I've struggled to find someone to complete. To my knowledge, this sort of thing hasn't been done in the past and will require both a brand new system designed from scratch and custom UI elements to display that system. The vision here is for players to start with no traits or bonuses outside of those given to their class on spawn, but for players to be able to work towards these things using talent points granted to them with each level they gain. Essentially, it's a progression system, which would be kept on death to ensure that even if you die, you're not starting from ground zero, which, whilst I appreciate is a big part of vanilla Zomboid, it doesn't really fit for an MMO theme. The next big thing we're looking to implement, which we haven't sourced a modder for as of yet, at least in part, is group content, specifically dungeons. We'd like to add some gate-kept areas of the map, which require either progress past a certain quest to enter the area, or a certain item which can only be gained through certain means. Now, the cool thing about map modding is that we can design areas like this already, and we can determine specifically what loot spawns in the area, or how many zombies spawn there. We can build the illusion of an underground area by encasing the player in a confined space, and with the creative use of certain tiles to make it look like you're inside of, let's say for argument's sake, an abandoned mine. The tricky part is how the player enters the area. Mods like the basement mod have accomplished this, but so far I've been unable to reach anyone that can help us with this on our side of things. So fingers crossed I'll have some good news on this the next time I speak to you guys, but we know it's definitely not impossible to create dungeons as group content inside of Project Zomboid. It'll be even easier when we get to build 42 and have 31 levels both below and above ground to play around with. So that's it for the progress update from the MMORPG theme, but I'd really like to hear from you guys on this one in the comments. What kind of things do you like about existing MMORPGs out there in the market right now? Do you think there's anything we need to add or change? Let's hear it. And remember, for those of you that make a point out of saying it can't be done, you're only spurring me on to prove you wrong. Special thank you to all of my patrons for their support. It's thanks to these guys that I'm able to commission mods like this and work on these huge projects, so I really do want to say a massive thank you to every single one of them. If you want to join them on the server and get ready for our second month of the Dark Ages theme we're currently running, there is a link in the description for that as well. Thanks folks, and I'll see you all in the next one.